Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Just Interesting podcast, the show dedicated to bringing you interesting facts that you probably don't actually need to ever know. Joining me, Alex, this week is our resident trophy hoarder himself. It's Martin. How are you doing, Martin?
I'm okay. So, Alex, you're saying that we should be actually called the Pointless Podcast, in fact?
I think we'd get a lawsuit from
we might do
BBC.
From the BBC.
Yeah, BBC would be all over that.
Yeah.
But no, I don't know. It's just, you would be great at dinner parties if you listen to this podcast, I think, because we just give you so many random facts that you can just bring up. Did you know, ...
Does anyone like the person at the dinner party that says, "Did you know?" and then just spouts off a whole load of facts? I'm pretty sure that's not necessarily the person you want to be talking to.
Yeah, no,
awkward
that's an
conversation. Small talk's over, and you go, "Did you know that?"
It's good for breaking those awkward silences. Just random chit chat about
a whale's penis is over 4 feet long.
Yeah, who doesn't like to know facts like that?
Yeah, exactly.
As anyone who's watching this on YouTube can tell, we are, of course, a man down again this week. Same thing as last week, but Martin, have you heard from Robin at all?
Well, the last time I heard, he was trying to escape the authorities by hiding out at Centre Parks. Which, for those who don't know, is a British family holiday destination where you go on cycle rides and walks through nature.
It's a very middle-class place for a fugitive to hide out.
Exactly, and that's why he's done it. But apparently when he was going along, he got very frustrated with the family of 4 in front of him and kicked their dog out of the way into the bushes. They then phoned the police again, so then the police are back on his trail. So he's on the run. We wish him the best, but unfortunately he can't make it for reasons that might track his IP address and find him. So that's the reason why he's not here ultimately. But your guess is as good as mine as to where he is right now.
Well, there we go. We'll keep you updated as the situation develops. But Robin, please, if you're out there, my personal advice would just be to turn yourself in. Turn yourself in and take the punishment. But please come home. Anyway, Martin, we like to start every podcast episode with a riddle. Would you like a riddle this week? Well, this week, actually, it's more of a brain teaser than a riddle.
Oh, God. Okay. All right, we'll see.
What was the one I did a couple of weeks ago that everyone hated?
Oh, God. I've blanked out of my mind on purpose.
Elizabeth. What is Elizabeth drinking?
No. What is she drinking? What was the answer?
She was drinking coffee, and it was to do with the letters in her name.
F&E in her name, or so, 2 E's in her name.
Which makes perfect sense, of course. Yeah, absolutely.
That's the reason that's the only reason she's drinking coffee.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I've got a brain teaser for you this week. So, here you go. A woman shoots her husband. Then that's
why?
I want you to give me the answer eventually. But,
okay.
A woman shoots her husband. Then she holds him underwater for 5 minutes. Finally, she hangs him. But minutes later, they both go out and enjoy a wonderful dinner together. How can this be? And that is your brain teaser for the season.
Shoots him.
A woman
shoots her husband, drowns him for 5 minutes.
Holds him underwater for 5 minutes.
Doesn't drown him. Holds him underwater.
And then hangs him. But then they go out and enjoy a lovely dinner. So how can that be?
Okay, I'm going to have to note this down because this is getting crazy. Shoots, holds underwater.
Yeah. And then hangs him.
5 minutes. 5 minutes. Well, husband. What's another? It's not his husband. It's actually not her husband, is it? It's some kind of animal. Shoots as in shoots. What's another way of a sport maybe? Or?
I tell you what. Have a think about it, and I will tell you the answer at the end of the episode.
For dinner.
Yeah.
Oh goodness.
And if you're watching us live on YouTube, because guess what? We do host these live on YouTube. If you're listening to us at a later date, why not join us over on youtube.com/justinteresting. And if you're in the chat with us right now, like CS Drummerson, James Linton 17, Cat Jab, Aaron Lee, feel free to participate. Have a guess at the quiz, at the riddle yourself. and I'll tell you the answer. I'll reveal the answer at the end of the episode.
Is her husband actually not a human? It's like an animal, right?
I'm not giving you any clues, Martin.
Hangs him out to dry, maybe?
I'm not giving you any clues. You just gotta go with it, you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. So be it.
So, Martin, before we get into the main topic this week, which is North Korea, and...
Oh, a classic.
It's a classic, and I feel like, I don't know how you feel about this, but in the before times, before COVID, before, you know, Russia's invasion of Ukraine, I feel like North Korea was the world's big bad Bond villain. And I feel you know, Russia's kind of taken up the mantle of that since Ukraine's invasion. And North Korea's kind of slid into the background a little bit.
I am slightly interested to know where, you know, people who aren't from Europe in particular, or maybe the US, people like, for instance, North Korea threatened Australia. Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
We have the capabilities to hit you, Australians. Whereas, of course, Russia, I don't think there's that tension between Russia and Australia currently. So I'd be interested to know what the rest of the world thinks about Australia and their threat compared to North Korea.
And that's true. That's very true. I'm sure it depends where in the world you're based. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. No, with North Korea, there's this disconcerting flip between them, you know, being a serious threat to world stability and then just being a laughing stock because of the hilarious propaganda, some of which we'll get into a little bit later.
Absolutely. Yeah. But I thought this would be a good opportunity to take a look at some of the maybe lesser known facts about North Korea. You know, everyone knows about their missiles and some of the crazier stuff they've done in recent years. But what about their culture? What about, you know, their food, their sports, all of that stuff? So we could maybe get into a few of those in a little bit. But Martin, before we jump into our main topic, of course I've got to ask you, what have you learned this week?
Well, I learned that falling asleep at work isn't always seen as a bad thing. So I don't know about you, Alex, but...
It is at my workplace, Martin, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I know, exactly. I mean, most people, I think, most people would be fired if you fell asleep at work. Or at least there'd be a disciplinary procedure, wouldn't there? Especially if you were in an important meeting, right? It'd just be it's like embarrassing. It's embarrassing. It's a faux pas. You can't do it.
Yeah, it's not okay.
But it is okay, Alex. It is okay if you up and leave Bonnie, Scotland, and you head over to Japan.
Okay.
And in Japan, there's a practice called inamuri, which basically means, it literally means being present while sleeping. And so if you're at work and you're a Japanese employee and you fall asleep momentarily in a meeting, they go, oh, this is inamuri, which means they've worked so hard for the company that they've momentarily fallen asleep and they're momentarily exhausted by it. And so it's seen as like a honorable. So it is, of course, people see it as like a laughing matter, right? Oh, he's fallen asleep at work. But it's seen as an honorable kind of failure, if you will.
Because it means they've been working so hard that they've fallen asleep.
Exactly. So it's like...
It's actually a horrible state of affairs. That's not something to celebrate, to be honest.
No, not really. But it's that workplace, almost like that mini bragging. I don't know if you had this before about, oh, they stayed until 9 p.m. or they didn't have time to have their lunch or whatever. It's like these mini things that suggest that you're working hard, even though actually it could just be like bad time management or you've been up all night playing games, right?
Yeah, unethical life pro tip right there. Schedule some emails to go out at midnight to make it look like you've been working so late. There you go.
There we go. This is Alex from his experience. That's something that serves him well.
It's not something I've ever done, but I suspect it's been done by some people that I've worked with before.
Do you reckon? Serious?
Yeah, I think so.
Weird.
We can talk about it after the podcast.
I'm interested. I'm interested now. Yeah, I mean, the only reason I'll be sending emails late would be different time zones. But this is kind of pretty crazy. And especially if you're new in the company and you don't have time to sleep, it's seen as like, okay, You know, there are rules to this. If you're someone who's high up in a company in Japan, then you should have more time to sleep. So falling asleep would not be great. But if you're like working your way up and you're trying to advance your position in a company, then actually falling asleep isn't necessarily a bad thing. So
it might not be interpreted as a good thing for the company as well if the higher ups are falling asleep at their desks, because then it indicates that they're working so hard just to keep the company from like going under.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone's asleep in this meeting.
Yeah,
the person giving the meeting is also asleep.
Yeah.
I
do like. I would like the idea of it if it was just kind of like they say it's because they've been working really hard, but actually it is just an excuse to implement like a scheduled nap time at work during working hours. Oh yeah, no, he's just been working really hard, when actually all the company has just collectively agreed, that this is okay to have a scheduled nap time. That would be good. I'd like a nap time at work.
Well, it did actually. In 2000, there was a city called Vector in Germany, and they allowed their civil servants of the city to nap during the day.
Oh,
okay. And actually, they found that it had like really good results and productivity was up. But it wasn't exactly adopted elsewhere because of the kind of the stigma around it. So that's interesting. But I guess in like places like if you work for Google or maybe Facebook, I'm not sure, but there's areas in which you can sleep, right? There's sleeping pods. So it's not too far off from that. It's like you're dedicated to your work, you're there, you're sleeping there, you're working,
I find that horrifying.
I know. It's pretty disgusting, right?
Putting sleeping pods, yeah. Why do you want to go home to your rubbish family?
Yeah.
We're your family now.
Oh God. There is that. There's definitely that saying, isn't there, that if a workplace calls you a family, then it's time to get out.
Like, there's a bit of a red flag, yeah.
Yeah, a bit of a red flag. Anyway, what did you learn this week, Alex?
Interesting though, Martin. Thank you for that fact. Well, this week I learned that. So you know the moon, our moon. We often
heard of it.
We often think, it's really bright in the night sky. When it's a full moon out, it's quite bright. Werewolves love it, obviously, but actually,
werewolves love it. Yes,
actually, it's one of the dullest objects in the solar system. Would you believe?
Really?
It actually only reflects about 13% of light, which, for comparison, if Neptune's moon Triton was in the place of our moon, it would appear 7 times brighter in the sky.
So our moon's a bit shit then. It's like, it would look so much better if it was just 50% brighter.
Well, I mean, I think we should probably be pretty grateful that it's actually as dim as it is, because it still lights up the sky. But also, imagine if something there was 7 times brighter. We would never be able to sleep.
Not 7. Now, the idea would be like 1.75 times as bright. So it's like, whoa, that's a bright moon. Or if it changed according to the day of the week. Weekends you can be brighter. It doesn't matter. You can have less sleep at the weekends. Weekdays, if we're tired, we can turn the moon down a bit.
If the moon had a dimmer switch, that's the ideal.
That's what I'm thinking.
Maybe is that something that they could ever, in some kind of futuristic sci-fi society? Do you think they could ever have that? Put like a shade over the moon, just to collectively turn down the dimmer switch on it.
I reckon so. Especially
or
if you're
brighten it up a bit.
Flat Earther, I'm sure there's some theories out there about the moon and it actually being there's the moon a hologram, that theory. So if it's a hologram, you can turn it up or down, can't you?
Yeah. Oh, that's a great theory. I love that one. Yeah.
We should cover that again.
It was just because when people zoom in on it really close with their camera, sometimes there's a bit of a flicker. It's like, oh, there we go. The moon is a hologram. Obviously.
Yeah. It might be. We never know. It might be.
And just an little extra bit of interest. The brightest object in our solar system is Enceladus, the moon of Saturn, which reflects almost 100% of the light that hits the surface. So imagine if that was in...
Whoa. Yeah, so it'd be like just staring into the sun.
Yeah. And I think that's because most of it is like ice. So it reflects light really well, whereas the moon is quite... There's often... if you look at a picture, There's a picture taken by a NASA satellite with the moon between, like, from behind the moon. So there's the moon in front of the Earth, and it's actually quite. It looks like a photoshopped image, but it's not, because the moon appears so much darker than the Earth. But they're both kind of lit up. But yeah, I think that the images that we see of the moon are far brighter than it actually is.
Yeah. I wonder how evolutionary our evolutionary traits would have adapted to the moon being, say, 7 times brighter.
It's a good question. Like our sleep cycles, the circadian rhythm, like would that be?
Would we have like a
different?
layer of skin over our eyes?
It's interesting to think about. Yeah, how would we have adapted to that? Who knows? Who knows?
No, we can speculate. Speculate in the comments.
Yeah. What?
That sounds good.
And also, how do you think humans will evolve in millions of years' time? Have you seen?
We have to evolve.
Have you seen those articles where they've said like, is it humans? Our fingers are going to get longer because of like using smartphones or something like that. I can't remember. And we're going to be more hunched over or something.
Hunching one just from people looking down at screens and phones. I don't think that probably won't even be evolutionary. Just gradually, just people will be hunched, won't they?
Yeah.
It's a depressing thought.
It's a bit of a depressing thought.
Yeah. I'm having to straighten out now. Nice one.
Yeah. So before we move on to the main topic, Martin, are there any comments that you'd like to talk about from the past week or from the live chat? Or I've got a comment, if not.
Yeah, I've got one. Andreas Quintana says, waiting on that pre-recorded episode where you record separately and piece together. Yes, yeah, it will come, but I think we need Robin back for that one too, to make it the full experience. And who knows when he's actually going to return from his escapades, his illegal escapades.
What is the appeal of doing that? I don't understand. I don't understand how that would work, the logistics of it.
Oh no, it's an awful idea. It just doesn't work. It does not work.
Maybe we could make that as a Patreon exclusive.
I like it. Good plan.
I think putting it out for everyone might be a bit insane, but we'll see. We'll see. I've got a comment from Darren Wallace. He commented a day ago on our first ever podcast on the channel, Martin.
Ooh.
And he says, my favorite thing from this podcast was the thought that Gene Simmons' watery milk was going to ruin 2020, not knowing COVID was around the corner. This is 3 years later. I have no idea what the context of that was.
No idea.
I didn't listen to the first episode. Do you remember talking about Gene Simmons' watery milk?
You know, we get this from time to time when people comment on an old episode and that has no context. And so I very rarely go back and listen just because I don't particularly like listening to my own voice. I don't think anyone does. But yeah, that's a bizarre one. Gene Simmons, I'm just trying to think of the context in which that would come up.
Yeah. No idea. And why it would ruin 2020.
Gene Simmons. We're talking about his tongue knocking over some milk, maybe? I don't know. I'm not sure. I have to go back and listen.
But it did get me thinking how much has happened since we started this podcast. It's kind of mad. This is going to be like a time capsule from years ago of how we were and the things that we were going through and everything. Yeah.
I know.
All of COVID.
I know, because there's an update, isn't there, each week really on how we are. And of course, during the pandemic, there was definitely a bit of talk about it. We tried to avoid it constantly because after about 3 months, it's like no one wants to hear more news and constant news articles and talking about the pandemic because like we all know we're in it and you can find that it's on the news constantly. So we definitely made a concerted effort to avoid that. So it's not going to exactly be a dear diary of the pandemic, but definitely gives a snapshot of what we were up to at that time. It's interesting.
Yeah, definitely. But thank you everyone for your comments. Please keep them coming in. And before we move on to the main topic, Martin, I just wanted to say a massive thank you to some of our Patreon supporters and our amazing YouTube members. So I'd like to thank Ahmad, Caleb Wilkerson, Hey Swanboat, Henny Ruffle, Janie, John Baker, Kurt Jones, Nicholas Dill, Rashad Najjar, Safu1, the Super Show podcast, fantastic podcast everyone should be listening to, And then the extra special tier, the elite of the elite, Martin, a filthy casual, Peaswad, Emmett Tapia, Josh Chomatek, and Simon Workman. And of course, our YouTube member, Captain Wonky. Thank you, everyone. We can't tell you how much we appreciate your support. And if you head over to our Patreon, there are over 100 episodes of little extra bonus videos. If you'd like to support us anyway, and some previews and things as well of what we got coming up. And yeah,
absolutely. And what was our last one? New Zealand cancels cat hunting competition for children. So
that was,
if you don't want to watch that, then you're bored of life.
That was that weird story where New Zealand had a cat hunting competition, and it was aimed at children. It was really weird, really bizarre.
Yeah, I know. Find out our thoughts and more details over on the Patreon page.
Yes,
awesome.
So Martin, North Korea, shall we chat about it?
Oh yes, let's get into it.
Okay, so North Korea, it's one of the world's most isolated and enigmatic nations. It was founded in 1948, and ever since then, the country has been shrouded in mystery, with limited access to the outside world and a tightly controlled media that is used to propagate state propaganda. So, North Korea's founding is closely tied to the Kim dynasty, with its founder Kim Il-sung leading the country for over 46 years until his death in 1994. His son, Kim Jong-il, succeeded him and ruled for another 17 years until his death in 2011, at which point power was passed down to his son, the current leader, Kim Jong-un. A little bit of background there. And despite being a nuclear-armed state with a population of over 25 million people, very little is known about North Korea's inner workings. The country's government operates as a one-party state with complete control over all aspects of daily life, and very few foreigners are allowed to enter the country. And of course, there have been horrible stories of tourists actually going there and being, imprisoned for minor offences, and often, they haven't even done what they're accused of.
Or in prison for the purposes of propaganda, right?
Exactly.
So they can perpetuate North Korean propaganda for years to come.
Yeah. But this makes it difficult for outsiders to understand the realities of life for North Koreans, and it also contributes to the country's mystique on the global stage. So I thought, let's delve into some of these lesser-known facts about North Korea. It's a country that continues to fascinate and confound everyone across the world.
Big time.
So is there anything that you wanted to... Do you want to go... Is there anything you wanted to talk about?
I wanted to dive straight into just like some of the hilarious pieces of propaganda that have come out of North Korea.
Sure.
I don't know whether this was the point that we wanted to start on.
No, go on. Yeah,
I think that it's probably one of the most, like, there's two sides, isn't there, to North Korea? There's like the pretty horrific dictatorship that's actually incredibly young, and that's what makes it so fascinating, I think. The fact that there's been this incredible indoctrination that's only been going on for, 80 years?
Yeah.
And yet this dynasty is so cemented within the society. And of course, with that comes human rights abuses, like famine, although not that much is known, but supposedly like really bad conditions for the average person in North Korea. Then the other side of it is just this ridiculous propaganda machine that actually quite successfully works on most of the people that live in North Korea. Like, that they believe most of what's said, or at least presume to believe it, right? Because of maybe fear of repercussions if they don't. But from that comes some ridiculous stories of propaganda. And I just wanted to bring some of the funniest to the table. So,
I mean, C.S. Drummerson in the chat has mentioned one of them. I don't know if that's one that you're going to bring up, but that was a classic.
That one's not on this list because I think we've mentioned it before. But they did claim to invent the burrito, or Kim Jong-un did, right?
I think it was. I think it was his dad. I think it was his dad, Kim Jong-il, said he invented the burrito. But yeah, anyway.
That's insane. I love it. So Kim Jong-il, we're back onto Kim Jong-il. And apparently in 1994, in his first ever round of golf, Kim Jong-il shot 11 holes in one.
Only 11?
Only 11 out of 18. So he failed on some of the holes, really.
I like that, though. I like how they tried to make it sound modicum of believability. Like, okay,
Yeah.
we can't say you got 18 holes in
Exactly.
one.
No,
but,
11. 11 sounds about right. Yeah, you think about them considering. I mean, 11 holes in one. So, I mean, if I don't want to get too much into the details here, but if that's not a par 3 golf course, he's hitting some holes in one on par 4s, which, yeah, I mean, that's incredibly rare.
Yeah.
Incredibly rare. I don't think it's ever been done on the PGA Tour.
Do you think like it's either in his arrogance he's claiming like that he's that good at golf, but I could also see the scenario where he surrounded himself by people like who worship the ground that he walks on, and that surrounds himself in absolute yes people that will say yes and give him anything. I can imagine on like a par 5, he like hits the ball. Someone quickly runs out, grabs it, and then puts the ball in the hole. It's like, well done, you got it in one. And he's like, just let me play the game.
God damn it! Stop it!
Stop
it!
I just want to play.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, I mean, not just Kim Jong Il and the Kim dynasty, but do you think that celebrities get annoyed with that too? Like people always offering to do stuff for them, like. No, I want to pay for the drink. Don't buy me this drink. I've got so much money. Don't stop giving me free stuff. I want to pay for it. That must happen.
Oh yeah. If I was famous,
I'd
be devastated by that. Yeah. So that's I don't want to be famous and given free stuff all the time. That'd be horrible.
That would be the worst.
we went through that phase of the pandemic, didn't we? The Imagine phase.
Oh no. Don't bring it up. It's when you look back at that list as well, and some of the people on it should have really known better.
Yeah, you would have thought, yeah. But then it was like, I don't know. If you see, I think it was kind of like a snowball effect where they see so many other celebrities are attached. So they're like, yeah, okay, I'll do it.
Just sing a line from Imagine. Oh yeah, I like that song. Yeah, cool. Yeah, whatever. Charity. Yeah, cool. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
exactly. Well, would you like to be given a free Pyongyang burger? Because North Korea in 2010 claimed that they had in fact invented the hamburger.
As well as the burrito.
As well as the burrito. This is before the burrito. The Pyongyang burger. It doesn't say too much about what it consisted of, but it seems like it's a regular hamburger, probably with ketchup and maybe a bit of mustard, but not American mustard, of course, Korean mustard, North Korean mustard. But of course, the hamburger has been going for a lot longer.
Interesting.
In fact, they claimed it in 1958, but they claimed they invented it in 1958. But of course, the hamburger is much, much older than 1958. So even if they did invent it in 1958, then they're way out anyway.
That's an interesting one, and it kind of relates to a point that I wanted to mention as well. But do you think they claim that they invented the hamburger because hamburgers, at that point anyway, maybe was just very synonymous with America? Because,
definitely.
Because on my list as well, North Korea has apparently banned blue jeans. You can't, if you're in North Korea, no one's allowed to wear blue jeans, and that's because it's seen as a symbol of US influence. And Kim Jong-un sees it as an ongoing battle against the dangers of American imperialism. and denim, yeah. He just hates it personally. But I think that's interesting, that maybe that's where these kind of outrageous claims come from, trying to convince not the rest of the world, but their own population that, like, no, look, this isn't American. We invented this.
Yeah. And also, these things that you may have heard are great on the outside of North Korea, we have them here already. In fact, we invented them. It's like there's nothing else for you outside of this country because we have done it already.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a propaganda machine. North Korea claimed that they'd sent a man into space in 2003. The man's name apparently was Kyang My-yong Song 2.
Okay.
And he had orbited the Earth 12 times.
Wait, he had 2 on the end of his name? Like
2, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. Around the Earth 12 times and then back to North Korea, of course. But of course, that's not true.
We don't know that, Martin. We just don't know.
We just, yeah. No, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
Do they have like a statue of him anywhere, or does he? They
don't.
Do they have any kind? Did they just say it as a statement, or is there any kind of fabricated evidence?
Yeah, they just came out and were like, Yeah, this guy, he's orbited the Earth.
Do they have any
Congratulations
pictures
to
of him
our
in a
space-
spacesuit with a rocket behind him? Or
No.
oh wow, okay,
No.
so they just really
Yeah.
don't have much going
So-
for this claim.
So they did really they released a satellite into orbit around this time, but of course it wasn't a manned rocket. It wasn't a space mission.
Right.
So that's probably where like the myth became legend, so to speak. And obviously, yeah, they didn't send a man into space and didn't
Yeah.
go around the Earth 12 times. But they did send. It seemed like they did send a satellite.
Fair enough.
They claimed to invent the internet in 2000.
In
Kim
2000.
Jong-il. Yeah, well, Kim Jong-il. Well, they claimed in 2000 that they invented it, and that Kim Jong-il invented it actually way before it became became popularized, way back in 1974.
Interesting. Okay. I've also got some interesting facts about North Korea's internet.
Okay, yeah, delve in.
Well, in fact, you can only visit 28 websites in North Korea, and the internet is more like an intranet as opposed to an internet. It's a
Okay, yeah.
you know, it's like one of those closed off systems. But at the end of the day, this probably isn't the end of the world, because in North Korea, compared to the average salary, computers are incredibly expensive, and you have to request permission from the government to access any of these 28 intranet websites. So that means
basically just 28 government propaganda sites, right?
yeah. So that means that North Korean internet is really only available for those high up in the party who can really be trusted.
Wow.
Yeah. There's also only 3 TV channels. So
Yes. Interesting. I'd like to know more about the TV. Is the TV mainly news and state propaganda, right?
that's the one that we hear about, isn't it? The
Yeah.
classic image of the North Korean state broadcaster reading, reading
Yeah.
state propaganda. But yeah, I'll be interested to know what's on the other channels. I reckon it might be some kind of sports, perhaps international
Maybe.
games, because there are
Basketball. I know that Kim Jong Un and Kim Jong Il were big fans of basketball, weren't they?
yeah. And interestingly, they even invented their own rules because
Nice.
for some of these games, and it's thought maybe this is because they hate losing. So instead of following well-established international laws and conventions, they often decide to make up their own rules for sports.
Or
So-
maybe they're just better rules.
I mean, do you know what? I was reading their rules for basketball, and I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
actually, that sounds pretty good. So
Okay, have you got some of them?
I
down?
have, yeah.
Nice.
So this was Kim Jong Il. And for those of you who don't know, Kim Jong Il was had an enduring friendship with Dennis Rodman. But he thought he could improve the rules of basketball, so he rewrote them. So here they are. Slam dunks are now worth 3 points. Three-pointers...
rather than 2, right?
Rather
There
than
were
2.
before.
Three-pointers are worth 4 points if it's nothing but net shots. So as in,
I like that.
if it's a swish and it's from the 3-point line, then it's
Yeah.
actually 4 points.
Rewarding the aesthetics of it. I like it. Yeah.
You know when they get free throws, if there's like a foul or something from the line, 1 point is deducted from every missed free throw.
Oh, yeah, a bit of jeopardy.
Yeah.
You know what? Kim Jong Il's done quite well here.
Any field goal made in the last 3 seconds is worth 8 points.
Okay.
And games can end in a tie, which I guess they can't in the official rules.
That's a bit of a weird one, actually.
That's a bit of a weird one to end on. It's like, do you know what this game needs? More draws, more ties.
So the 8. So what was the last one? It's worth 8 points if it's in the last 10 seconds.
Last 3 seconds.
3 seconds. So you don't want to be taking your shot on 4 seconds to go if you're behind by more than 8 points.
Yeah. It kind of
between,
incentivizes waiting until that
to
last
wait.
3 seconds.
Yeah. You want to have the ball right at the end if it's a close game. Yeah. Which is kind of fun. Yeah, I don't know. Overall, I think he's done a decent job there of trying to make it more exciting.
I definitely think so. It's encouraging more slam dunks, which are fun to watch. It's rewarding nothing but nets because they are so cool that they deserve to. They should be reflected in the points, and then adding extra tension and drama to the free throws by you can lose points as well as gain points.
That's good.
All round,
That's good.
Bravo.
Yeah. No, he's done. Yeah, pretty good job. Pretty good job.
While we're on the subject of sports, this is a fact that I didn't know. Did you know that Pyongyang, the capital of North Korea, is home to the largest sports stadium in the world?
I did, in fact.
Okay.
But that is a crazy, crazy fact.
I didn't know this.
Just ridiculous.
But it's called
Amazing.
The Rongrado 1st of May Stadium, or May Day Stadium. And it can hold up to 150,000 people. And
crazy.
It was officially opened on, you guessed it, the 1st of May, 1989. And it said that they deliberately built the stadium so they could outsize South Korea's Olympic Stadium. So they basically built this as a big power play.
Yes.
But that's mad. Yeah, I never would have guessed that the world's largest stadium was in North Korea. Maybe I'll save that and have it as a quiz question. Test Robin to check that he's listening to these podcasts.
I like it. That's good. In fact, I've got a sports one for you as well, a bit of propaganda. And that's that 2010, there was the World Cup in South Africa. North Korea won it. North Korea won the World Cup. So if you remember correctly, of course, they faced Brazil in the final and they won 2-0 and they won the World Cup, didn't they? We all remember that.
It's not when was this, sorry?
2010.
2010? Yeah.
Yeah, they won the World
Cup. Doesn't ring any bells.
No, in fact, they didn't even qualify, but the state media said that they did, in fact, win the World Cup, and it seems like most people in North Korea believed it. So congratulations on that, at the very least.
That's a great idea, actually. If you just tell people that you won.
You won.
Yeah. It's a bit like you with the trophy, Martin, the quiz trophy.
I did win last season, though.
I actually can't remember if you did last season. Did you win last season?
I don't even know anymore.
I think you did win last season, actually.
I've definitely won a season. Whether it was the last one or not, it's another matter. I think I might have done.
I think you did, yeah. I think you've won 2 seasons, but you've kept the trophy since the first season that you won.
yeah, that would add up. Yeah. Or did Robin win last season?
I don't think Robin's won since the first season, but he might win this season. He's currently ahead in points, I believe.
He's always a challenging competitor. I'm surprised that he hasn't won more. His knowledge is ridiculous.
Well, he has access to Google anytime he wants. I think he tries to dumb it down just to make us think that he's not an artificial intelligence. Exactly.
Yeah. No, it's fair enough. Good point.
So back on the subject of North Korea, did you know? Well, speaking of amazing film plots, talking about Robin being the Terminator, did you know that North Korea has a thriving film industry?
Really?
It does.
Like, are you being sarcastic?
No, actually, I'm not. Of course, a nation like North Korea kind of does need a pretty good film industry because, of course, they're making a lot of state propaganda.
That's true. Well-produced state propaganda. Yeah, good point.
And in fact, the country's film industry originated in the 1940s, the same decade when the country was actually founded. And I don't think that that's a coincidence. No. They produce around 30 to 40 films every year, many of which, surprise, surprise, are shown only in North Korea. However, they are also known for producing more artistic, more experimental films, some of which have been shown at international film festivals.
That's interesting.
However, they have yet to produce any internationally recognized award-winning films. They haven't won any kind of Sundance Awards yet.
Yeah. Because isn't Kim Jong-il or I think it's Kim Jong-il was quite heavily influenced, wasn't he, by Western movies and was like a big fan of certain types of movies that you'd see in the West, and so wanted to recreate them but in the North Korean style, right? And spent an astronomical amount of money getting film producers over to create movies. You are
completely right. Kim Jong-il was had a strong interest in film, and in particular, that maybe this is what you're thinking of. I mean, he did spend loads of money to get directors and stuff to come and produce films in North Korea. But also, he was a massive fan of a South Korean filmmaker called Shin Sang-ok. And in 1978, Shin Sang-ok and his ex-wife, actress Choi Yun-hee, were kidnapped by North Korean agents while they were living in Hong Kong. They were taken to North Korea, where they were held captive for years and forced to make films for the North Korean government. During their captivity, Shin and Choi were reportedly able to produce several films, including the 1985 film Pulgasari, which is often described as a North Korean version of Godzilla.
Okay.
And the couple, thankfully, were eventually able to escape while on a trip to Vienna in 1986. And
So they weren't even released. They had
to escape, yeah. And they later went on to make a documentary about their experience. But one thing I never get with these, like, you've gone to the trouble of kidnapping these people and bringing them to North Korea. Why did you let them go on a trip to Vienna? How does that work? I never understand how that kind of works, because
surely it must have been for filming, right?
Oh, yeah, maybe.
It must have been for filming. They were like,
we've got to go here to get a shot. And then
yeah, exactly. And then boom, gone.
And maybe after that amount of time, they just thought, do you know what? They must like it here. You know, they've made so many films about us. They must love it here.
Yeah. No, exactly. Yeah. I imagine that though. I mean, as a film director, it must have been quite a wild ride being able to create films, given, you know, what I imagine would be pretty big budgets if it's state propaganda, right? Just to basically do what you like.
Yeah, but also, I mean it's state propaganda, so they must have been very careful with what the messages of the films were. They must, I don't know, I'd hate that.
No, interesting.
Strips all of your creativity and what you want to say away from it, I guess.
Intriguing.
But this was seen as an extreme example of North Korea's state-sponsored kidnapping program, which has been used to bring foreigners to the country for various purposes. And while some North Korean officials have denied involvement in this, others have acknowledged that it took place and have even praised Kim Jong-il for his foresight in bringing these people to North Korea. You know, and there's also other controversies surrounding their like film industry, which include allegations of forced labor, with some reports suggesting that actors and filmmakers are forced to work long hours with little pay. And of course, unsurprisingly, the filmmakers engage in self-censorship to avoid offending the government, which is absolutely no surprise.
No, yeah, I was going to say, no surprises there. That's crazy.
Yeah. But interesting. But also, and we've been saying that, you know, North Korea was founded in the 1940s, but they would disagree with that.
Oh yeah,
yeah, they'd actually disagree with that. They would say, do you know when they would say they were founded?
I know they have an alternate timeline, don't they? But I don't know what the year would be in our time. I don't know, like 1600. Don't know.
Oh no, it's way more arrogant than that. Year one.
Oh, okay. Year one. Okay.
Nothing happened before that. So while most of the world uses the Gregorian calendar, North Korea uses a system known as the Juche calendar. And the Juche calendar is the official calendar of North Korea and is named after the country's official ideology. This emphasizes self-reliance and independence, North Korea's ideology. But rather confusingly, this was introduced in 1997 to mark the 85th birthday of Kim Il-sung, the founder of North Korea.
So year one. So when is year one? Like in our time, when is year one?
So actually, I got it wrong. This was Kim Il-sung's birthday, so when he was born. So it's 1912 is year one to them.
Oh, so 100, well, they're 111.
We're 112 is the year at the moment in North Korea. Yeah.
Okay.
And the Juche calendar uses a different system of counting years than the Gregorian calendar, which is used by most of the world. So his birth is considered year one, and each subsequent year is counted from that point. So 2022 is 100. 111? Oh, 2023, sorry, is 112 in the Juche calendar.
Got it.
Also,
But
one
there's
of
still
the
365 days.
well, it's a bit confusing because they only have 10 months instead of 12,
Oh,
with each month consisting of either 30 or 31 days. And the remaining
what? This doesn't add up.
the remaining days of the year are divided into 2 holidays. One is called Day of the Sun, which commemorates the birth of Kim Il Sung on April 15th, and the other is called Day of the Shining Star, which commemorates the birth of Kim Jong Il on February 16th. But confusingly,
Okay.
these aren't days; they're months.
I was going to say, how does that add up to the extra 2 months you need? So these are really long holidays.
I guess so. Yeah,
It must be.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I like the idea of just having, I mean, a time off. I mean, people have been forced labour camps. It's not exactly time off, is it? Having these holiday months where you're celebrating something, even if it is as ridiculous as getting your calendar wrong.
Well, yeah. In fairness, and I'm not sure like how they celebrate these months, like what goes on in them. It's also kind of, I mean, I guess it's just their birthdays. That's what determines it. But in April and February, so it's not even like, I don't know. Normally, there's a kind of winter. It's normally like winter and spring that you have kind of holidays, don't you, across different cultures?
Yeah,
but because this is just based on.
That's about right.
Yeah, so I guess it works. Yeah, but it's interesting. So yeah, they use a totally different time frame, and I never knew that either. It's not something that I really thought about before, but. Yeah, I guess you could have maybe guessed that they wouldn't use our normal time frame, but
I knew about the fact that their history doesn't reflect our history, right? They based it around the Kim dynasty. What I didn't know is the fact that they only had 10 months of the year and then had these other holidays.
Yeah,
I didn't know that was the case. But they're basically like other months, right? It seems. If every day has 30 or 31 days, then these two, they're not called official months, but if they're long holidays, then they practically are, aren't they? They're just called something else.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, I learned a little bit about the facade that North Korea has to the rest of the world, and I know that when tourists have visited, they have to stay along a very narrow path, don't they? Of here's the monument to Kim Jong Il, here's the monument to Kim Jong Un, etc.
Yeah, it's a very cultivated experience, isn't it? You can't really go off the beaten path too much.
Exactly. His Pyongyang, etc., etc. But there are plenty of fake cities in North Korea too that try and give this illusion that the country, of course, is more prosperous than it is. And one of the more famous ones is called Kijongdong, and it's a small village in North Korea, of course. But the reason why it's famous is because it's of its location. It's located on the border with South Korea, so they want this outward-looking facade of it being like a really nice village. So it's known as the Peace Village. And it was built in the 1980s and basically looks like this prosperous, happy community. All the buildings in this place are like really nicely painted and they're bright colors. It looks a bit like, I don't know if people at home have seen it, but Balamory, where it's just like the pink house and the blue house and the green house, etc.
Interesting.
And there's this big flag commemorating North Korea in the middle. And of course, from the outside, from the South Korean side, you look at it and you go, "Oh, that's bright, that's colourful, that's well up, has good upkeep." But you can look a little bit closer, and if you have a pair of binoculars, you'll see that actually no one's living there. All the buildings are empty, and it's literally just an illusion, a bit like Disneyland at night, right?
It's actually just cardboard frames of buildings, and they just blow over with a stiff breeze.
Exactly.
Wow.
So it's a village that's been created just to deceive the South Koreans if they're not wearing their glasses, basically. But there are these cities like all over North Korea, especially in the capital, but also on the South Korea border. So they're strategically placed in the country, which is pretty interesting. So I thought that was a good one.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, I wonder how prevalent that is and how much it works for the population, because it's interesting. Someone has to build those fake cities. I wonder how much the average people building those cities knows that it's a fake city, and
Yeah.
then something must is something triggering in their heads like this isn't right. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, hold on a second.
I wonder how
Why do we have
much
to
of the
fake this?
population is heavily indoctrinated, or how much actually really knows what's going on, but just doesn't want the hassle, doesn't want,
Yeah. If it's called a peace city, it can't be peaceful if people are living there. It's got to be empty. There'll be noise if there are people living there. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's an odd one, isn't it? But you find that a lot of these facades are definitely based in the places where people don't come up against that same hardship. So it's very much like, I'm doing okay in society. If this is what we want to portray our society as being, we want to show off, what North Korea is capable of in terms of architecture and beauty, in inverted commas, then so be it. That would be my guess as to what like the people who live close to these fake cities or fake villages in this case believe. That would be my guess, but who knows? That's part of the mystery.
Indeed. Did you have any other facts about North Korea that you wanted to share? I've got a couple.
I've got one more that I thought was interesting.
Okay.
And then I'll hand over to you, Alex. But North Korea has wind-powered buildings in the capital city, Pyongyang.
Wow, that's very progressive.
I know, and this is probably the most progressive thing that they've probably ever done. But of course, electricity can be an issue. Getting hold of electricity in North Korea, particularly because there are sanctions on oil, and usually they would use oil to create electricity. So for the last 15, 20 years, they've been looking at ways in which they can generate electricity from other sources. And one of them is from wind turbines. And they've got, plenty of plants that aim to utilize this, and big wind turbines that you see elsewhere in the world. But they've also got smaller wind turbines that are housed on top of buildings within the major cities. And there's a lot of wind, so turbines spin when it's windy. As a turbine does, it generates electricity, and then these are used to directly power the buildings that they're on top of. So completely backwards in a lot of ways, but when it comes to certain types of green energy, in fact, North Korea is supposedly ahead of the game.
I wonder how effective they actually are on those. What's the benefit of doing that as opposed to having, a larger field of wind turbines connected to a grid?
It's clearly partly for show, isn't it? It's like this. It's a bit like when someone has solar panels on top of on top of the house, but on top of a truck or something. It'd be more effective if they were kind of in the ground and people plugged into them.
Well, I was wondering, is it because if they connect it to the grid, then that building can't guarantee that electricity will come back to them? Do you know? Whereas maybe at least if there's limitations on electricity, at least if they have their own wind turbines on the building, that they know that they're going to get some electricity. Maybe
you might be right there. Yeah.
Maybe it's because they can at least guarantee that they'll get some of it if instead of just plugging it into the grid. I don't even know. Actually, I'm saying all that. I don't even know if they have a grid over there or how that works. I'm sure they do. They must do, right?
Yeah, they must do, especially around the big cities.
Yeah,
they will do.
That is interesting. And while we're on the subject of using different fuel sources for electricity, did you know that they also have wood-powered cars? Not exclusively, wood-burning cars.
Wood-burning cars?
Yeah. So because they're a bit of a pariah state when it comes to international relations, and because of strict international sanctions, it's become very hard to import oil to North Korea. So they found a creative solution to this, which is just putting wood directly into the bit where you put petrol in. Well, they've made cars that are fueled by wood. They've got their own kind of wood bit, and they just put wood shavings into it, and that fuels the cars. Because it's just like an internal combustion, and that happens from just burning.
That sounds incredibly dangerous.
Yeah.
Essentially, I mean, petrol by its nature, you'd think if you're a layman like me and doesn't exactly know how it works, you'd think, oh, you're putting fuel into a car and then lighting it. That sounds incredibly dangerous. Of course, it's much more nuanced than that. But wood burning in a car doesn't sound like a great idea.
I'm sure it's not the most efficient, and I'm sure it doesn't lead to the best performing cars ever.
Just charcoal just coming out of your car. That sounds awful.
Yeah. But they do have wind powered buildings, so swings and roundabouts.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Another interesting thing that I think this is the last fact that I have, but a story actually just came out saying that the US is thinking that North Korea is largely funding its missile development program from hackers stealing Bitcoin and crypto.
I had heard about this actually,
which is surprising because you often see those pictures of like the North Korean leader in like an IT facility, and it's like some 1990s massive 3D print, massive 3D PCs, and they look, they've got dial-up internet and stuff. But actually, North Korea has an extremely advanced hacking program that goes back to at least the mid-1990s and has apparently grown to a 6,000 strong cyber warfare unit.
That's where their money's going. Yeah.
And the FBI confirmed that North Korean hackers apparently stole over $400 million of digital currencies in 2021 alone. So, yeah, I didn't realize that they had such an advanced hacking. And I don't know if you remember when Sony released that film.
Yes.
with James Franco, The Interview.
Yeah.
And there were stories that came out that like
I do.
North Korean hackers had hacked Sony. And
we spoke about it, didn't we?
I'm sure we did speak about that at the time. But I was remember thinking like, North Korea hackers hacking Sony?
Yeah.
What? Like it didn't compute, but clearly they do have a pretty sophisticated hacking ability.
Yeah, I imagine they've probably had some help from China as well.
Possibly.
But yeah, that's pretty crazy. But I mean, if you invest in the teaching and the technology, then why not? Why not? If you want to put your eggs in that basket, which they obviously have. Yeah. Interesting. 400 million. Wow.
And that was just in 2021. I don't know. Yeah, they might have stolen more in last year, or they've definitely stolen billions of worth of crypto apparently.
Yeah.
And apparently they're using that to fund their missile program, which is
there we go.
And apparently their GDP is $28.5 billion, which is less than a lot of US states.
It doesn't sound like a lot for the whole country.
No. But yeah.
Intriguing.
I hope that those were some interesting facts. And I hope you didn't know all of those facts about North Korea. Hopefully there's something in there that you didn't know, a little nugget of new information for you. But yeah, let us know if we missed anything important or that you would have brought up. But yeah. And thank you, Martin, for joining me in this discussion about North Korea.
No, thank you. I mean, North Korea is one of those I love returning to each time, and there's always more to speculate and to speak on. So we could definitely, if we want to come back with even more facts, or let us know. Actually, let us know in the comments below. Let us know on Twitter. I'm at MartInteresting,
and I'm at Just Alexing, or you can contact us on JInterestingYT on Twitter.
Indeed you can. But just let us know, what facts about North Korea do you have? What topics would you like us to cover next? And we will do. We'll set up another one hopefully with Robin back if he hasn't defected to the state.
Getting a bit concerned, to be honest. He's been acting erratically lately.
I know.
He sent me his he said he's joined
intervention.
He's got a rapping career. Well, he's trying to get into rapping. Yeah.
On Christmas.
He sent me his mixtape, and
right, okay.
The beats were good, but the lyrics were quite hateful, to be honest. So
I can imagine.
Yeah, he didn't like the feedback that I gave him. So we'll see. Yeah.
Okay, well,
just looking at the comments. Glorby says, "I just tuned in. What did you do to Robin?" Well, I mean, we were just saying. What was it, Martin?
What's he done to us?
Centre Parks and
Centre Parks
got arrested.
Kicked a family dog.
So So
got arrested, but he was already on the run, but then got arrested again. Sorry. By arrested, I mean they were chasing him. He's actually currently a fugitive somewhere near Nottingham.
at a certain point, this just becomes slander. This is...
Well, he shouldn't do it then, should he?
No, he shouldn't. He shouldn't.
Yeah.
Microtech5871 says, you need a chimney sweep to care for your vehicle if it soots up a bunch. This is referring to the wood-powered cars. Yeah, I'd like to see... I don't know if there's any footage of one working, but I'd like to see how efficient it is. And Microtech also says, Alex reminds me of Laszlo from What We Do in the Shadows TV.
I need to have a look
seen
at that. I've seen like 2 episodes, or 1 or 2 episodes.
I need to watch that show. I love the film, but I haven't seen the TV show.
Yes. No. Is Matt Berry?
It's Matt Berry. Oh, I'll take it. I love Matt Berry.
You and he were buddies, weren't you?
Oh, you're so good at that. That's ridiculous. Anyone who can name that reference gets 10 points. So,
yeah.
There we go. Go.
Also, Martin, before we head off, I've got to give you the answer to the riddle.
Yes, of course.
Do you want to hear it again?
I always forget. Yeah, go
on. Here we go. So the riddle was, a woman shoots her husband.
Yeah.
Then she holds him underwater for 5 minutes. Finally, she hangs him. But minutes later, they both go out and enjoy a wonderful dinner together. How can this be?
Because she took a picture of him, and I did not get that from the comment section.
Did you get that? Was that C.S. Drummerson?
No.
I would like to.
Not. I got it all by my own intuition and intelligence. Was that one? No comment section at all. Of course.
Well, I would like to give a particular shout out to C.S. Drummerson in the chat who managed to get that riddle answer. So well done.
I lied. Yeah.
Yes.
C.S. Drummerson.
Of course, the answer is the woman was a photographer. She shot a picture of her husband, developed it by holding it underwater, and then hung it up to dry and went out for dinner with her husband.
Fair play. It's good. I like that. I like that brain teaser more than I thought I would.
Oh, good.
I thought it was going to be annoing, but actually it was good. Yeah, it makes sense.
I'm saving the annoying ones for when Robin gets back.
I like it. Yeah. Good stuff.
But thank you, Martin. Thanks for this discussion. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I hope you have a fantastic week. And yeah, we'll see you when we see you. Anything else to add, Martin?
I like Monster Munch. That's it.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Thanks.